Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
Yeah. You gotta work. You gotta work, grind, shine, it's mine. Gotta show everybody it's my time. Getting here, you gotta work, grind, shine. Never mind who talking down.
Welcome to Let's Talk with Carl Lee and frequent guest hosts Hollis Lewis and Lisa Otey, where sports, culture, and community intersect. Join the crew as they dive into engaging conversations with guests from all walks of the sports life. Let's Talk is proudly presented by attorney Frank Walker. Real talk, real experience, real results. FrankWalkerLaw.com, and by the all-new historic Quoyer Diner in downtown Charleston, online at QuoyerDiner.com. Let the conversation begin on Let's Talk.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Carl Lee, and I'm here with Let's Talk. And Lisa Otey is my only guest in the building today.
Oh, my goodness. This is a scary thing.
Hollis Lewis is out today, and we're Lisa, it has been so... It has been like so hot here recently. Like, you know, when you start talking about this kind of heat and you start talking about like sports.
Right.
I mean, this is really considered what I would call dangerous.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the pervading question, at least in our region, is hot enough for you? Have you heard that? Maybe once over the past weekend and probably the next 4 or 5 days. But yes, the extreme heat, it's affecting, all of the Midwest, of course, our area, and most of the East Coast. And extreme heat warnings are out. And it did play, some havoc with our Major League Baseball over the weekend. The soaring temps just affected some of the players, and some of the bigger name players were affected. I just wanted to bring that up, and we can kind of discuss it further. But over the weekend, one of the shortstops for the Cincinnati Reds, Ellie De La Cruz, I think you've heard of him. He fell ill during a game at Busch Stadium against the Cardinals. He actually he left the field, and his manager stated, which I thought this was kind of a funny way to put what happened, but he said he drank a bunch of water and then he went right out and got rid of it. So obviously we know what that means. But he left the game for a period of time. It wasn't a serious medical emergency. He was able to return, and the Reds were victorious in that game. So he was able to come back and finish. The other player that it affected, it was a reliever pitcher for the Mariners, Trent Thornton. And for him, it was a little more serious because during the fourth inning, I think not the fourth, I think it was later in the game, but he actually had a physical event, and he actually had to be helped off the field by the manager and by the assistant athletic trainer, and he was immediately taken to an ice bath, which tells me his may have been more closer to, heat stroke rather than heat exhaustion. He did not return. Their temps at that time, at the beginning of the game, was 90, 94. They also had some umps fall ill during that game as well. So the reason I thought this would be a good discussion, obviously it's a current event, but also you've experienced, I'm sure, periods of excessive heat during your summer training camps. The beginning of NFL season, how did that affect your play?
Well, I'll start when you start talking about like training camp.
Yes.
I think at the end of the day, I think the coaches, the mentality back then before all of the notable issues that were around heat, the heat was like the hotter the better, because that's going to get you in. That was the mentality, and that's going to get you in shape. But you had guys fall out. You had guys who, whatever they had for lunch, whatever they had for breakfast, they couldn't keep it down.
Right.
But the crazy thing about old school, and most types issues like this,
right?
No one sees it as a issue. It's just something.
Danger.
It's not dangerous. It's something that, hey, sit down, put an ice towel on you, sit for a little bit, and go right back out.
Right.
And we didn't know the risk that we were taking. And a lot of times it's not even necessarily the coach. A lot of times it's the player.
Right.
Like, you want to get back out there, and fortunately for me, the few times that I've ever really felt like I'd been overheated, like, again, I'm right back in.
Right.
I'm just get me on the sideline, get me on the bench, get me a towel, dump some water over me.
I'm good to go.
I'm good to go. And really, you're not.
You're not. No.
You're not. And I think on the high school, collegiate level, I think, and even, matter of fact, I'll even go down all the way down to the youth levels. You have to be really, really careful when you're talking about this kind of heat.
Sure.
And anybody who's gets a little dizzy, feels like they're ready to throw up, throws up.
That's a signal.
That's a signal that you should not.
Medical treatment.
You should not ignore.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, that practice play, that practice time, they can make that up.
Yeah, for sure. And what I was going to say, they recommend, I know there's some strategies that you just recommended, like with the towel and with the dump the water and all those things. But, I guess prior to training and all of this, the season beginning, they also recommend doing those 90-minute heat exposures, like you go out for, one day or 2 days a week for 90 minutes and kind of expose yourself and gradually build that up. Yeah. Was that something you guys did or?
No. We had, again, at the professional level, you got, you're in camp and you've got 2-a-days.
Right.
So you're coming out, you're probably out on the field by 9 or so, no later than 10.
Sure.
And you're
9 a.m.?
Yeah. And
so why wouldn't they start earlier to avoid the heat? They want you in the heat, right? They want you to experience it.
I'm not going to say that they want you. That's just kind of the schedule, and it could have been earlier, but you're going to get 2 hours worth of practice, and you're going to be in full gear, and you're going to get a break. But how much of a break can you get, sipping water bottles and,
sure.
Or something in a cup? It's really just not enough. But we looked at it as this is what it is.
Right.
We we didn't know a difference in, it's hot, but you don't really know.
That was kind of the old school
thinking. It was old school, and you didn't really think that anybody was really going to fall out. And sometimes even when you think that when they fall out, you're like, oh, they just couldn't take it.
Right. They're not tough.
They're not tough enough. They couldn't take it. They couldn't go through it all. But I'm telling you, this type of heat, it can cause you some really, really major issues.
Sure.
And you need to take account for it. I know we went bike riding the other day, and we went about 10, 15 miles or so.
Sure.
And I could feel man, this was tough.
Yeah, you don't even have to be active in this heat.
You really
you can
don't.
Just literally, I yesterday evening, I had the dogs out after they'd eaten their dinner, and I could just feel my body, just the perspiration, and I'm just sitting there, out of the sun, in the shade, because of the high humidity as well, which plays a huge part in all of this. But the overall thing I think I wanted to kind of talk about too was the performance. I mean, it's got to affect your performance out on the field regardless. I mean, even if you're able to stay on the field, there's things that neurologically and physically that it's got to slow you down.
Yes, I have to. And again, I'm cautious in answering how, a certain kind of way, because I don't want to lead anybody to think like it's okay. What I'm saying or how somebody handled it, how I handled it,
Right.
Doesn't make it right. I'm just
sure.
want to clarify that. I think as you go up the ladder, especially at the professional level, you start to think that there isn't anything that can break you. There isn't anything that can.
It shows weakness.
It makes you feel like weakness. It's a male kind of thing that like we don't want to. I know it's hot, but I don't want to fall out. I don't want to throw up. I don't want to do anything. I don't want, I don't need any of those kinds of things. And I think we have to be careful.
Well, don't you think the tides changed in that whole attitude about the heat exposure with, I think it was 2001, was it Corey Stringer that passed away during a practice? It may have been in college or a high school student.
I do remember something.
From heat-related illness. It may have even been, I think it was a heat stroke. And that started to bring attention to the dangers of extreme heat and athletes.
Yes, and I don't know. I'm assuming
I have to more regulated now, right?
Yes. I was going to say I have to assume that there is a huge regulation, or something in place that you have to do in those types of situations.
Sure.
If we'd had maybe a coach or something, they may know what those regulations have been or are now, because there's no way I can't imagine.
And if somebody out there can Google Corey Stringer 2001 heat exhaustion incident, I couldn't remember if it was a high school or college or even professional, but I do remember the incident. I remember it was a big deal because he actually died during practice.
I've got it here. It was during the Minnesota Vikings training camp 2001.
Oh, okay. That's something I probably should have known.
Yeah. Okay, I knew it was okay. Yeah, and it was a big deal. It was, and that's when it really started to throw light on the dangers of this.
And you would like to think that it should have been already in place, but again, at that level, everything is like there's nothing that you should be able to not do.
Right.
You got to be able to deal with the cold. You got to be able to deal with the rain. You got to be able to do with all the heat. You got to it's like you have to be prepared to play in any condition that you get. And when I look back at that, I do get it because we played in every kind of weather possible.
Right.
But at the end of the day, there's some safety issues that you have to consider.
And you could even go a step further with this beyond the athletes on the field that are, in whatever the event is. What about, like what happened with that umpire during that baseball game? There had to have been incidents of heat-related illness with probably the fans, spectators, and officials during some of those baseball games. Because it affects everybody.
It does. You because you're in the bleachers,
right,
and cheering and thinking all
and having a hot dog and a beer.
Yeah, that it's not gonna impact you. It actually will. And I just don't think that and I hate to say it this way, I just don't think we've had enough situations to where we look at this as a major thing. Like it's not a major concern. It's not like, to my knowledge, I don't know that we've taken it serious enough or putting
maybe
some kind of
because it doesn't happen enough. I mean, like these extreme heat types of weather, events, they're not every summer, and they're not this impactful.
And they're not every sport.
Right.
I don't think that we should, I don't think we should have to wait.
Right.
To understand
prevention.
How serious, how risky it is to be in this type of heat and exercising outside. Guaranteed somebody's out running.
Yeah.
And they're loving it. We rode bikes the other day, and I'm putting on shirt after shirt after shirt after shirt and my sweat jacket because I want to sweat. you know, and
in this heat?
Yes.
Are you serious? Carl,
and I when I thought about it is when I got back. You know, because I was soaked.
Did you feel like?
I did feel a little. Yeah, I feel a little
queasy,
little bit. But I was like, you know, hey, I did it. I got a good sweat. Lost a few pounds. But
now, see, you're still living in that old school world.
Carl's using Mother Nature's sauna out there.
You know,
I can't even believe he's saying this.
But I say it for the fact that, like, I know for a fact that there are people like me,
right,
who are doing things who may not even be
that don't take it serious.
Yeah, that don't take it serious, may not be in the shape that. I'm not saying you have to be in shape to do it. I'm not condoning what I did, but it does help. And then how far and how much and how strenuous the things that you're doing, you have to pay attention to that in order to be safe.
So here's the question in the room. Here's the elephant in the room. What are some of the strategies that, I know it's summer, it gets hot, we all know that, but what are some strategies that maybe Major League Baseball and these other midsummer type of outdoor, sports, what could they do to maybe help alleviate or prevent some of these things happening, like with these two players that happened over the weekend and the official? I mean, what are some things they can do?
I think people would hate this, but I think you need, especially in locations that are really hot, you need indoor stadiums.
Yeah.
You know, I think what solves this is indoor stadiums.
Okay.
You know, that solves your problem.
Or you schedule it, like if it's a matinee type of game,
yes,
you're going to have it either early in the morning or late in the evening. I mean, whether the fans like it or not.
Major League Baseball does a little bit, as you look at a team's season schedule,
right,
as they move further into the summer, the games during the week start a lot later. Like a lot of them are 7,
right,
7:10.
And I'm not sure what time these games started. But it was so hot, it didn't matter probably, even if they started at 7.
Well, and this is maybe a deeper rabbit hole than you want to go down, but
right,
one of the differences I think for me, like talking about football versus baseball, with football, if you want to have your legs, the bottoms of your legs exposed, or if you want your arms exposed, you don't have to have fabric covering it.
Right.
Baseball, I mean, they game in, game out all summer long. They're wearing pants.
Yeah.
You got that hot glove. You got to wear a hat. I mean, it's and sometimes you're just standing out there in the heat. It's
in the sun, just bearing down on you.
I wonder if people would revolt, I'm sure, but I mean, is there something you could do maybe with the uniform?
Well, that's a good point.
I could see shorts. I could see something like that. But again, sliding.
Yeah.
All those kinds of things would be the reason why you don't go there. But again, I think the reality, the key piece to this is indoor stadiums.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you can't do that, some type
who
of...
can't do, here's my thing.
Well,
Tell
money.
me,
You got to have money to build those indoor stadiums. Some of these cities can't afford that. So that's an issue.
I bet you, again, when you start talking about the NFL, the league itself could confirm that every team could have an indoor stadium if they had that, if this was an issue. I'm not sure how much baseball makes, how much the league itself makes. There's got to be something.
Well, I will give credit. I will give credit to Wrigley Field because they're going to go a step beyond like the misting, stations and all that. They're actually going to bring in a portable, some type of a truck or something that will be their cooling unit. So that when a player gets heated or they feel like they need a break, they can go into that. I don't know how many stadiums have that, but at least they're trying.
Well, there are a few that are indoor. I mean, you talk about down in Florida or like American Family Field in Milwaukee. They've got the removable roof. The Rogers Center up in Toronto. But other than that, I mean, like the one I think of is maybe more like Minnesota. Could you imagine in the spring game in March? It's the total opposite of this.
Yeah.
You need it for those fringe parts of the season.
Yeah. All right. Well,
You were a busy man this past weekend, Carl Lee. Carl Lee, let me tell the audience right now, the listening audience. Carl Lee is drinking coffee like it's just going out of style. And I walked into the station this evening, and he was like, "I'm living on coffee." And I'm like, "What?" Because I've never really seen Carl drink coffee like this. So Carl had a very busy weekend that I'm very curious about, and I want to know what happened this past weekend in Minneapolis.
Well, there's a gentleman who puts on these events, signings. We had a camp. I think this is about the third year of the football camp. And he brings in a bunch of players just for the excitement of it.
Okay, spill the tea. We want names. And we want some players. We want to know.
We had Dante Culpepper. He was there. Jim McMahon was there, Chicago, and the Chicago Bear quarterback. Now, the interesting component about that is I think he did play a year in Minnesota, but, he was a Bear. But he gets along. He's the guy that gets along with any and everybody.
Really?
And Dante, who I am going to just so everybody knows, I'm going to go after him as a guest to get him on.
Awesome.
I am shocked.
Did they do the Super Bowl shuffle?
I don't think Jim can do that at this point now.
Jim can't do that anymore.
I don't think he could do it.
The shuffle's gone.
But what was amazing to me was to watch guys who were the epitome of the league at one point in time, and how genuine they were, and personable to anybody who came up.
Sure.
To sign. Like, I saw, especially Dante, I'll give him the huge props. Like, I don't think he turned down anybody signing. Let's say we signed for about an hour.
Okay.
And we're walking around somewhere
was this autograph signing event combined with like a football camp?
It was with a football camp.
Okay,
it was with kind of everything.
Okay.
All right. And so all this stuff is done, but he's there, and somebody walks up to him and they'll say, "Hey, will you sign this?" Yes. I saw him with a couple little kids that no way they know who he was.
Aww.
But he was so kind to them that it was just amazing. It made me feel proud, and it made me and it made me think, like, so if you're not Dante Culpepper,
right,
how do you not sign somebody's paper or a hat or something? You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
For me, it was an opportunity to see someone that played the game at a very high level, but yet was so relatable and so kind to the public that it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I think the fans enjoyed it. I think they were like probably shocked. And then Jim is just like, he's just comical like the whole time. And his jokes are not anything that I could repeat. but they were.
That's good to know.
They were. Some of them were good. Some of them were like, ooh,
They weren't PG or G rated, right?
No, they were not.
Okay.
But he was such fun that, and again, someone who I would think would not be overly personable, but he was so. Like, he'd come, get on. If we were riding somewhere, we were on some vans and stuff, and he would come over and, like, he wouldn't sit by himself. He'd come sit right beside you.
That's neat.
And then he'd nudge on you and joke with you, and like he wasn't going to ride on any of the transportation that we had and sit beside you and not talk to you and joke. And again, people have their ideas of who these guys are and what they might be like. And
their persona, their football persona, right?
And again, I even had that,
right.
And it was so amazing to see guys that had played at such a high level be so genuinely kind to players they didn't know.
Sure.
Players they played against, the public, kids. I mean, it was unbelievable to me. I was kind of like starstruck in my own right because I just couldn't imagine. Like, I don't know what I thought they would be,
Yeah.
But I have seen that before at the high level, guys that are high level. I've seen guys do that, and I was like, guys, man, I'm just curious about how they're going to address it.
Yeah.
And it was so far on the other end of it that I was amazed.
So the football camp part of it. Now, how did that work? Did they have like just area youth come to that, and did all the participants in the autograph? Did you participate in that as well? Okay.
Yes. We had a couple of guys played golf. Some of the guys played golf. Some of the guys did the camp. So some of the younger, more mobile guys worked the camp, and some of the other guys who have a little bit of
you were one of the young mobile guys, is what you're saying.
Not young, just mobile. So I should say young and mobile.
Okay.
So you could, if you were one of those, then you worked the camp.
Yeah, sure.
And we just kind of broke it out into different sections. It's about 80 kids or so.
Okay. It's a good turnout.
Yeah, and every one of the players that were there had an opportunity to kind of speak to the kids, talk to them about life and sports and all that kind of stuff, whatever they wanted. And I thought that was something that was really, really kind of special. So, and I'll give the gentleman who puts this on. His name is Buddy Becker. He's the guy that contacts everybody, pays everybody, gets their flights, hotel, meals, all that kind of stuff. You can't like I don't know anybody who does that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But he and another gentleman named McMahon, they have started kind of working together, doing these kinds of things. And the areas that we go to are a ways from the cities and, the Twin Cities. So they're not like right down in the cities. We're out and about in smaller communities.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, and I think that's what's really, really important about it is that we get to those communities who typically don't see players.
Yeah.
And then it's so cool to watch these young kids who don't know anybody there.
Yeah.
And just the way they just smile when you sign, and I mean, so
They're
it's
all
really cool.
BC before Carl.
yes, for sure. I'm probably me and Jim are probably. Scott Steadwell was there, who was a linebacker for.
Did you play against Jim?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I couldn't remember if that was the same time period. Okay.
Unfortunately, yes. Somebody asked me. I think Dave asked me on the show before if I had picked them, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm gonna have to go back and look at that because if I did, I want to make sure he knows that the next time we hook up.
Yeah, you need to do some research.
Yeah,
on
I need to do a little bit of research, but I know this. The Bears' huge season, I don't remember what season that was. It was like 89 or so, or
late 80s.
Late 80s. Right? I don't think that I would have picked them that season because I think they were perfect in every category possible.
They're still memorable.
Yes.
I mean, you still remember that run. So.
I'll make the case to this day. I think that's probably the best defense and possibly the best team that the league has ever seen. And
no!
Let me just say. Well, let me just say this.
There? Are you really going?
I'm going there. But let me just say
Let's
this
think about the New England Patriots during their era in the 90s. Let's think about the recent Kansas City Chiefs.
I get it. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you.
Okay, why?
Here's why I say that.
Why? Let's hear the why.
The physicality of what the Bears were then versus what it is today.
But the rules were different.
I'm just saying, if you play the Bears in the Bears era, they don't have no problem putting Mahomes on his back and sending him to where he's can't come back. They don't have no problem with that. You back then.
That's a bold statement.
I know.
Okay,
but
you went there,
and
you're standing with it on your business. I
because
like it.
I just don't know if there's ever going to be a more physical team. And then again, their offense was even physical. Like,
yeah, they were. They were.
I mean,
you're right.
And so the great quarterbacks today are mobile and all those kinds of things.
Sure.
But the defensive linemen, the linebackers, you're talking about Singletary, you're talking about that whole defensive line, that whole defensive secondary, like it was an amazing group.
And Bears fans still talk about it.
Yes.
It would have been early in your career. It was actually 1985 they won Super Bowl 20.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. The mid-'80s.
Yeah.
We were close.
Yeah.
80s.
80s. Yeah, that puts us close.
It's close enough.
And I'm telling you, I don't think to this day, when I think about a team, like, there was some really good teams back then.
Sure.
But there was nothing like that Bears team. There was nothing, to me, that Bears team was.
So how old's McMahon now?
I think he's.
I mean,
can you look that up? Because I think he's older, just a little bit older than me. I think he might be just a little bit older than me.
Yeah, because that would make sense. Because you had to have been really early in your career in 85, right?
Yes. Yeah. Because I got drafted in 83.
Yeah. So you were.
So I was just getting in.
Just past your rookie year, actually.
He's 65 now.
He's 65.
Yeah,
he was drafted
I'm 64.
82.
Yeah.
Okay.
82,
yeah.
Yep.
So he was 1 year ahead of me.
Okay.
So, and again, like I said, man, getting a chance to kind of like hang out, be around him, was interesting because again, he's just so much fun.
Yeah.
Like he's never serious.
We need to get him on the show.
We got a shot at it because I got access to him. So
yeah.
So if we can get him and we can get Dante,
oh yeah,
we would be doing good. We'd have now. I'm not even going to go there. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back.
All right, cats and kittens, have you heard? The Warrior Diner is back. Step into the classic vibe of one of Charleston's most historic restaurants. Don't miss the daily Blue Plate specials. Breakfast served all day, every day, and free parking. With an outdoor patio covered for the summer, an elegant basement bar, and customizable event space, 1022 Warrior Street offers an experience unlike any other. Open 7 days a week, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit warriordiner.com for all the need to know and relive the good times at the Warrior Diner.
Let's face it, bad things happen to good people. Seriously injured in a car accident, trucking accident, or even wrongfully arrested. Life happens, and when it happens to you, you will need sound legal advice and aggressive representation. That's when you call attorney Frank Walker at 304-413-0179. That's 304-413-0179. Lock it in your phone, text it to a friend. 304-413-0179. Or visit online at attorneyfrankwalker.com.
Let's Talk with Carl Lee is presented by attorney Frank Walker and the all-new historic Warrior Diner. Come in on episodes, ask the crew questions, or suggest topics on our Facebook page. Search for Let's Talk with Carl Lee and remember to like the page to become part of the conversation. Subscribe by searching Let's Talk with Carl Lee on your favorite podcast service and tune in Thursday evenings at 7 or Sunday nights at 8 for Let's Talk with Carl Lee. This is Let's Talk with Carl Lee. Now back to the conversation.
So I had to take a quick break before I said something that I probably didn't want to say.
And I wish you would have. It wasn't horrible. We were just talking about the beauty of podcasts, so it would take care of things like that. So Carl, I know some conversations we've had in our text threads with Hollis, and we miss Hollis because I know he would have had a lot to say about this subject. But some of the things that we were talking about is training camps. And how for some players it is something that they don't enjoy or they don't complete or they get really frustrated with, or some don't even show up. So You know those things. Tell us a little bit about your experiences with training camps and what you see today.
I missed 2 days of training camp because of my contract.
Okay.
Of all of the contracts that I signed,
which is one of the major reasons why a lot of players miss training camps.
It has become something that you can use to
get out of it.
Get out of training camp.
Yeah.
But back then, you really didn't want to not go to camp unless you were truly comfortable with being at a position that you knew that you were going to be the guy.
Like an Aaron Rodgers at quarterback.
Yes. If you're unsure of where you're, whether or not you're going to start, you're coming to training camp. I don't care what the contract issue is. Because you got to show up.
Sure.
But I think now, when you look at
what is it, 6 weeks?
It was
typically.
It was. I always thought it was 4. It was 4 weeks for us.
Okay, I'm thinking they've extended it, but the research I found today was 6 weeks. But
that may be true, but if they've extended it, I'm sure that it is not at the same level of what it was intensity. In 4 weeks. Yeah, because you're talking about, again, this type of heat. If this type of heat is out there, you're still practicing and you're still going full gear.
Right.
And now, do you get a break? Yeah, you get a couple more breaks, but still, in this kind of heat, and training camp is the deciding factor of whether or not you're going to play.
Yeah, is it once or twice a day?
It's twice a day.
Okay.
You'll do. We did 2 weeks of 2-a-days.
Okay.
Back in the day, and then we'd go to 1 day.
Closer.
1 a day as we got closer to the end. And those 2-a-days, I mean, they were tough. But at that point, when you come out of the 2-a-day sessions, you're probably either somewhat close to kind of figuring out. The coaches are pretty much trying to figure out who's going to be playing,
sure,
and who's going to be starting, who's going to be here, who's going to be there, and it's starting to kind of pan out to them at that point.
Gel.
And I say that because if you're going to a camp, training camp period, high school, college, it's really important to show everything that you got as quick as you possibly can.
Okay.
Because, if you're looking to get, there's guys that are starters who have accolades, who've started for 5 years, 10 years, whatever,
Yeah.
And you're trying to get on the field.
Right.
You're getting on the field basically because of training camp. Because once training camp's over, unless that guy
who they want.
They know who they want. And the guys who are playing, unless they're really playing bad, or they're just not helping the team, or you're close to that player's talent, you're going to likely to get some snaps, which is my situation to get to play.
Sure.
Was the opportunity. A guy got hurt and decided not to take a shot, and Bud Grant gave me the start.
Right.
And I think I've said this before, and I get a game-winning interception against Detroit, and that was the beginning of my career. And that was in my third year. That was the beginning of my career of finding success in the NFL.
Sure.
My rookie season, I got an opportunity to play, and I moved positions the second year back to safety. So, and I didn't start in the beginning of the season there either.
Sure.
But I quickly moved back because safety was a different position. I thought I was a safety because that's what I was in college and high school, and I was like thinking like, okay, I'm gonna let me go back to what I
started.
No, yeah, and I went back, and it was a little different.
It was a little different.
The guys who were breaking through the line of scrimmage did not look like what they looked like when I was at Marshall.
Oh, let me guess.
Yeah, I had a.
They weren't small.
They were not small, and we talk about Jim McMahon. And maybe I've told this story before, but Walter Payton, actually broke through the line of scrimmage, and I'm at safety, and never in my childhood. Of all the dreaming of playing in the league,
right?
That's not the scenario that I ever came
You'll
to my mind.
You'll never forget it,
and I will never forget it. So I'm looking, and it just blows open, right?
Right.
And I'm like, okay. One thing I've for sure, he is not going to change his direction for me.
No.
All right, so, like, there's no reason for him to think like he's going to shake and bake and go around me or anything. This was his opportunity to say, okay, I am Walter Payton. Welcome to the league.
Yeah.
And I'm like thinking, okay.
Hear me roar.
So I'm looking at him and I'm like thinking, okay, he's not going to come off course. Yeah. So I can just go ahead and just run right at him and we'll just see what's happening. Lisa, like, I'm on my way there. And again, I'm thinking maybe Marshall. I'm thinking maybe high school. Like, hey, I'm going to make this play.
Uh-huh.
I do make the tackle. But when I make contact with him, it's like I hit him, and it was like hitting a wall. So my whole body just stopped.
Oh my gosh!
And I'm like, okay, what's happening here? Like,
he didn't go down.
No, he's not going down, and he's continuing to move forward. Now I can feel myself on my heels, and I'm thinking, okay, I am getting ready to fall over.
Yeah, I'm not in Huntington anymore.
I am not in Huntington anymore. He hits me, and the only way he falls is because I'm falling down. I'm falling backwards, and he's trying to run through me, and he trips over me and falls. And,
oh, wow.
And I realized then, okay, there is a time when you say, okay, I'm in the NFL.
Yes.
That was a time that I realized that, okay,
this is
different. Can I play corner?
Yeah. I just had this great idea come over me. This
I really
premonition. I think I should probably
There's
change.
no question. I think I am a better corner now than a safety.
Well, that's so funny.
You mean to tell me you would have rather been lined up against Jerry Rice?
Twice.
Really?
2 Jerry Rices.
Oh,
I would take Jerry Rice. I would take any receiver in the league instead of
I love it.
that tackle with Payton. I'd almost be willing to set the corner on the goal line with a guard coming to blow me up.
I think he's saying he ate some humble pie.
Yeah. Well, running backs were built different. I mean, they were bigger then.
Yeah.
And their mindset their mindset was different.
Yeah.
And you had the big safeties. You had Easley. You had like there was all these Ronnie Lott. You had all these huge safeties that would just knock your head off.
Yeah.
And corners were a little physical. We was kind of physical, but we were playing man to man, and that was the kind of so we were chasing receivers and hitting receivers. And then unfortunately for me, for whatever call we had on the defensive side
was not it.
It was not the right call.
I'd given anything. I'm gonna have to go back and look at these tapes.
I'm just telling you, it's funny. The game was just different.
Right.
It was, and I don't mean this in a bad way, like there's not men there now, but back then it was men really wanting to dominate other men.
Right.
And that Bears team was so full of it. Like they knew what they had. They had this pressure defense that
they had no fear.
They had no fear. Yeah. And they were doing everything that they liked.
Right.
And again, a few years later, we end up going to some bumping. When Pete Carroll comes in, we go to bump and run, and we've got Chris Doman, Keith Millard, Henry Thomas, all these guys that could rush the passer.
Sure.
All of a sudden now we're that team. Yeah. So it was time where each team was building defenses. Like you had to have a defense that had something going. And so quarterbacks feared our D-line, and that helped us out on the edges of playing man-to-man.
Yeah. It's funny how the pendulums have swung from a defensive focus to now it's more of an offensive focus. Don't you feel like in this day and age?
Absolutely.
All about the quarterback and the running back and what the offense produces.
I think that's because of the excitement of the fans
it's what the fans want.
It's what the fans want. And again, I don't know where the fans stopped loving the defense. And I don't know if they stopped but they just decided that the offense is better.
Yeah, and I think for a fan that's not truly understanding the game, they're not going to be as appreciative of the defensive game as they are the offense, because the offense is, exciting touchdowns and running, and they don't appreciate, a defensive type of game as a fan that understands it.
I think you're spot on, and I think too, to look at let's say a corner, cover a receiver is not overly exciting. If that guy's on your, if that's the guy you're rooting or the team that you're rooting on, he knocks the ball down, you're like, oh, okay, cool, second and long. You don't really, you're not focused on that guy.
It's not sexy as the offense.
No, it's not really sexy.
It's just not.
No. And again, you go back in those days, so many people were playing bump and run. The fans liked it because in most cases you're blitzing and you've got guys coming all over the place. Quarterbacks are getting knocked around.
Yeah.
And the fans love that kind of stuff. And now it just is. It's a lot different.
Well, the quarterbacks are protected more now,
and rightfully so.
Right, and rightfully so. Yeah, they have to be. But still, during that time period, they didn't have nearly the protections that they do now, and so they got hit pretty hard.
Yeah, and I'd make the case to get a flag on a quarterback, you really truly have to be late. But anything else, like if you're before the whistle, everything was good.
Free for all.
Yeah. And and there was like the diving on the pal, it's like just a little crack that you can get your helmet in. You were diving in,
and that was
sticking
okay.
your helmet. That was okay.
Oh, no.
But imagine, and this is why I think
probably encouraged even.
Yes.
I mean, if it was legal, your coach probably said go for it.
If you could get a guy out of the game, if you could get a guy out of the game that can beat you, then more power to you.
Right.
That now they have to come up and try to replace that player. So and I think the further back you go, I think the more physical the game was.
Right.
And again, to your point about rules and regulations that you can't do this, you can't do that, I think that has changed the way the game looks.
And it needed to a degree. To a degree. I think we've kind of gone overboard with it, maybe a little further than we needed to, but definitely some changes needed to happen. I hate to say this, but like I just think like in the guys in the secondary, just don't. Not everybody, not all of them, but there's a lot who just they don't tackle. Like they don't have the physicality in their mindset. They knock the ball away.
They knock the ball down. They don't necessarily want to make the tackle if it's a running back coming at you. They don't necessarily want to make that, or they don't look like they want to make it.
Well, do you think maybe the league's built a little bit more around speed? You've got, like running backs that are also potentially a receiver. Like think about like Christian McCaffrey, or you've got like Travis Kelce in the tight end spot. I mean, he's really just a giant receiver. You get all these people out of the box and running down the field. So for one, that's going to give you more of that protection you're looking for on the quarterback, but it's just everybody running everywhere, and you never know where the ball's going to go.
When you talk about Kelce, like the crazy thing about that, there were a few tight ends. We actually had one, Steve Jordan, who was so athletic that no linebacker could really cover him. And then the other problem is they're too big for me.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? So those kind of guys now are amazing. Because you can't find anybody that can cover them. You can't put a corner on them because they're too big. They're bigger. They might as well be an offensive tackle.
Well, who wants to tackle the guy that's 6'7" and 250 pounds?
Good point.
Nobody.
I mean, unless you're
thanks,
a lineman.
But no thanks.
Unless you're a lineman. You might be okay with that. But he's down the field.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not going to be nowhere near you to have contact. And then be him knowing you're that size and knowing that no one wants to hit you.
He's looking for a Carl Lee out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. He's trying to make a highlight.
Exactly.
Yep.
I'm trying to stay out of the highlight, and he's trying to make one. Yeah, it's interesting just to see the size of guys playing and now playing a position. You got him at running back. You got a good average size of probably 6'2", 6'3", probably at wide receiver now, with amazing speed. And now you're talking about a 6'6", 6'7" tight end.
They all have speed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it is. Every position now, pretty much in the NFL,
that's a fact.
Requires speed.
Do you think their agility's maybe better than what it was?
Absolutely. I think in this day and time, if there's anything that the league has, anything that the players have and a true advantage on, is everybody, the whole group is way more athletic, a whole lot faster, and I think that in the game, now you're looking at that on offense and defense all at the same time, and the game is just faster now. It's just more athletic.
And you've got to attribute that to just the science of football. I mean, they've learned so much about, physical training and preparation and bodybuilding and all the things that are required to get to that athletic, level. And they have it now. They have all that.
Well, you look at quarterbacks that, quote, used to scramble. You look at those quarterbacks, okay, and they were magical. They were like, oh my gosh, did you see Staubach? But now
that's common.
It's and some of these guys are amazingly athletic and making people miss. And you're thinking, that's a quarterback. That's not a running back, when did a quarterback get to be like a Patrick Mahomes? Like, how's that possible?
How the game's evolved.
Yeah, but that is truly how the game has evolved. And it's to me, I think it's just going to keep going.
Yeah.
So, Lisa, anything else?
I think that's it. We somehow jumped from training camps, but that's okay. We made a good comeback with our subject at the end, so we're good. We're good.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate your time, and we will be back again.
Let's Talk with Carl Lee is presented by attorney Frank Walker and the all-new historic Coyer Diner. Come in on episodes, ask the crew questions, or suggest topics on our Facebook page. Search for Let's Talk with Carl Lee, and remember to like the page to become part of the conversation. Subscribe by searching Let's Talk with Carl Lee on your favorite podcast service, and tune in Thursday evenings at 7 or Sunday nights at 8 for Let's Talk with Carl Lee.
If you fall, dust it off and get back up on your feet. Anything could be a win, yup, even defeat. They say sugar bad for you, why is victory sweet? Couldn't play with big kids, I had to sit in the street and watch from a distance, but over time I grew. If I put in the work, in no time I'm due. Everything that I worked and prayed, I'm okay. If you ask me, how did I do it, I'm gon' say, you gotta work, grind, shine, it's mine. Gotta show everybody it's my time. Getting here, you gotta work, grind, shine, never mind who talking down, cause they lying. Don't talk, you gotta work. 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 You gotta work.